Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar. It is my honor and my privilege to be here with you to deliver the 19th Brajamohan Sarma Memorial Annual Lecture. I'm truly grateful that all of you have come here on your Sundays to spend time here listening to me. Maharishi Sarma has been very kind to me in giving a very generous introduction to me. What he did not mention, I might also mention that I happen to be the only citizen of India at present against whom the lawyers who represent companies belonging to the Adani group headed by Shri Gautam Adani, they have instituted 6 cases of defamation against me. Manhani. 5 of them are in Gujarat, 1 is in Rajasthan, and I'm currently fighting them. And we have to, I guess, pay a certain price if we believe we should hold truth to power, which I regret to say many of my brothers and sisters in the profession are today not doing, and we will today examine briefly as to why this is happening, why the media has changed. The media was, people would look up to journalists once upon a time. They were held as people who would give a voice to the voiceless, who would hold accountable those who are in positions of power and authority. Journalists were looked on as people who would take up causes for the poor, the underprivileged, the disadvantaged, and they would be not scared of asking questions to those who are in positions of power and authority. Today, the image of that journalist across India has changed, and changed for the worse. Today, many journalists are seen as not just corrupt, but fixers, those who blackmail others, those who are no different from those who work in advertising agencies or public relations companies. They are despised, hated by people because they have become a part of the establishment that fools people, that exploits people, and with a heavy heart I say this, having spent 46 years in the profession, and just as I've seen how the media has changed, I've seen how individuals who call themselves journalists have changed. When I entered the profession, we were back to, we started with the press, the printing press that had been evolved by Gutenberg in Germany, the letter press where each letter, full stop, comma, was hand set. Today we have moved to a new era, a new age of the social media, where in the palm of your hand is your newspaper, your magazine, your book, your radio, your television, and more. Because the mobile phone is not just a medium of mass communications, it is also a medium of personalized communications. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it has not just impacted politics in India, how it has impacted society in India, for the better and the worse. Yes, I would remember numbers, telephone numbers, because there were 6 digits, 5 digits. Today with great difficulty I remember my wife's mobile number. I don't remember my children's mobile number. Something is not there anymore because everything is there available to you on in the palm of your hand. Reliance used to have an advertising slogan, Duniya Muthi Mein Hai. Today, when you tell a young person, dial a number, they don't understand what a dial is, because you're not dialing a number, you are pressing buttons. The change in technology has unfortunately also led to a deterioration in the quality of the information that is made available to large numbers of people. It is not that propaganda, fake news, false news, half-true news was not there earlier. It was there. But today the sheer speed, the sheer scale, the rapidity with which you can reach out to large numbers of people is unprecedented. This is true for what is happening in the world, and this is true for what is happening in India. So let me briefly start by making a few observations about what is happening in the world. When you look back in time, the internet is not very old. The internet may have been discovered or operationalized about 4 decades ago. But the internet is really just about 30 years old. Just about, little more than 30 years old, in the sense the way the internet is being used and widespread. In that sense, it's a middle-aged person. There are several young people here. The internet, they are younger than the internet. But many of you senior citizens would understand what I'm saying. Today, at least 2/3, perhaps 3/4, because no one has the exact precise numbers, of all the people who live on planet Earth, say roughly 8 billion people, 800 crore, roughly 800 crore people who live on this planet, between 2/3 and 3/4 of all those people have used the internet, are using the internet, or have used the internet even at least once. If any of you are interested in the details, there is a website that calls itself the World Internet Statistics. Go there, you can see the sheer rapidity with which it has spread. And the remaining 1/3 or 1/4 of the population that has not used the net or hasn't used the net, even their lives are being affected by the internet. And I don't mean infants. I don't mean infants, senior citizens. What about very, very poor people who cannot even today afford a mobile phone? In order to get a service from the government, say in India, you want to get an Aadhaar card, a bank account, you have to use the internet, or you have to go to a place where the internet was being used. Once upon a time, people used to make trunk calls, and then you would have to go to a booth where people would make the call for you so you can speak to somebody outside your area. But the founding fathers, the people who discovered the internet, including people like Tim Berners-Lee. He was a Britisher who spent much of his time in Switzerland. He is credited with having invented what is called the URL, the Universal Resource Locator, where you press on that button, on that icon or that button, one computer gets connected to another computer, gets connected to a third and a fourth and a large number of computers. He thought 30 years ago that the internet would be a force for the good of humanity, that it would democratize society, it would be a thorn in the flesh of dictators, authoritarian people, the Rajas and the Maharajas and the Nawabs and the Shahs of the world. They would hold them accountable for their action. People would get liberated. Democracy would be strengthened. That's what they thought. He said it would spread education, it would spread, that information would give people power. But today, the same person, the same Tim Berners-Lee regrets what the internet has become. It is like that classic double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. Today you don't have to remember the birthdays of your friends and your relatives because it's all available on Facebook. Today you don't have to remember numbers because it's all available on your mobile phone. But that knife cuts both ways. That scalpel is a very, very, very sharp knife. That sharp knife, if it is in the hands of a very skilled surgeon, a doctor, a person who is unwell and needs to be operated upon, her or his body can be cut and that operation can be conducted and that person can become a healthier person. But that same sharp knife, the same scalpel, can be used not just to pick your back pocket. It can be used to maim a person and even kill a person. That is what has happened, and that's the best analogy I can think of for the internet. Many of you are aware that today the biggest corporations and corporate conglomerates on the planet are technology companies. When you say technology companies, you're talking about information technology companies. Once upon a time, if you looked at the list of the top business groups, the companies, the conglomerates in the world, you will find the names. Once upon a time, I'm saying a few decades back, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, you will find the names of the oil companies. Standard Oil, SO, the steel companies, the car companies, General Motors, Toyotas. Then the retail companies became very big, like Walmart. Today, the biggest companies on the planet are all information technology companies. And they're headed by individuals who are today in their 40s, at best in their 50s. And I don't mean Bill Gates. I mean Mark Zuckerberg. But when you look at these, it's a handful of companies. Alphabet, Meta. Once upon a time there was a Chinese company called Alibaba. But Xi Jinping of China said he can't become bigger than me. So he's not as big as he used to be. There's Amazon, there's Microsoft, there's Netflix. We used to call them FANG once upon a time. F-A-A-N-G, Facebook, Amazon, Alphabet, Netflix, Google, but the structure has changed. We have an apex company which is called Alphabet Incorporated, and it has 3 major divisions in it. One is Google. Google to search. It has become a generic name, like Xerox had become a generic name. You want to know the date of birth of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Arey, Google karo. It's become a common noun. It can track where you are going on the map, from one place to the other. The maps. It provides you a range of services unthinkable in the history of humankind. But Google is not the only division of Alphabet. Alphabet is also the owner of YouTube. YouTube, where you get videos and films and audiovisual content from across the world. There is so much being put on YouTube every hour that a human being, if he or she does nothing but watch YouTube, she or he would not be able to watch all of it in days, if not weeks. This is the sheer scale of their operations. The third big division in Alphabet is an operating system which is used on the mobile phones, and that is called Android. Over 85%, around 90% of all the mobile telephones in the world use the Android operating system. Take another organization, another giant conglomerate, and that is called themselves Meta. Meta on one side has Facebook, which is the world's biggest quote-unquote social media, samajik madhyam platform, Facebook. It is also the owner of WhatsApp, the biggest end-to-end encrypted messaging service. I'm going to come to WhatsApp later, because India has the biggest customer base of WhatsApp, over 50 crore, over 500 million people in India at present are using WhatsApp, perhaps more, maybe it's 600 million, 6 crore. And they also have another social application which is called Instagram. So just two giant organizations, and like these big multinational corporations, their annual turnover, their business is more than the national income, the gross domestic product of many of the 200 countries on the planet, on planet Earth. And that's not all. The point I'm making is, please understand, here are two corporations headed by two young men in their 40s. And look at the power that they wield. Look at the power they have. What you read, what you hear, what you watch is being controlled to a greater or lesser degree by two corporations, the owners of Google, YouTube, Android, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. I tell a young lady here, or I tell a young man there, can you do something? Don't look at your mobile phone for 24 hours. He said, why? I said, it's an addiction. I'm also addicted to it. You know, it's like the alcoholic. If the alcoholic doesn't get that glass of whiskey, his hands are shaking in the evening. I said, so they say, what shall we do? I said, just shut it off. Do anything. Read a book, listen to music, go for a walk, climb a hill, go to a forest. Don't look at the... Most young people will say, no, I don't want to do it. This is the level of addiction. Yeah, it might do something for your eyes. Those who are addicted to video games, it might do something for their mental health. But this is the level of addiction to the social media, where a young person will be most reluctant to say, I don't want to use the net just for 24 hours. It's not that people have stopped reading. People still read. People read, but they're reading less and less on paper. Now you can say it's good for the environment, it's good because fewer trees are being cut down, but you're also harming your eyes, but you're reading on screens, whether it's your handheld screen or your laptop or whatever. This is the way our world has changed. There's a film which is available on Netflix. It is called The Social Dilemma. It's a long documentary film, but I will suggest all of you watch it. And watch it with your children, watch it with young people. And one of the things you will find there, that there are two industries, or two, what should I say, businesses that call their consumers, upabhokta, as users. Not consumers, but users. One is the information technology industry, the social media, and the others are those who sell you drugs and alcohol. They are saying, sharabi hai, is a user. वो गंजेरी है, गांजा पीते हैं. And those who want to study more on this subject, I will strongly recommend a book, a thick book, which has been written by an academic, a scholar from the United States. Her name is Shoshana Zuboff, Shoshana-Zuboff. It is called The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. She talks about how this is the new avatar, the new aspects of capitalism that we never thought of, that Marx never conceived, or even the upholders of capitalism, Milton Friedman and others, Schumpeter, never conceived. This is the age of surveillance capitalism. And the subtitle of the book is truly amazing. The subtitle of the book is The Fight for a Human Future. The Fight for a Human Future at the New Frontiers of Power. Because these giant corporations and the mobile phone you use are not only can track you are moving from one place to the other, it's not only what food you like. Do you like noodles, or do you like dosas? Do you like biryani, or do you like pulao? Are you vegetarian? Are you non-vegetarian? It not only looks at who are your favorite singers, who are your favorite musicians, who are your favorite film stars. Not just that. It's not just what kind of clothes you are likely to buy. There is that aspect to it. Of course there is an aspect to it. These are big corporations that are trying to predict your behavior, anticipate your behavior. Who will you vote for? This is where the media is impacting politics. It's trying to figure out, will you vote for BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party? Will you vote for Indian National Congress? What do your habits, what do your reading habits tell you? Are you liking everything that Himanta Biswa Sarma is saying? Or are you a supporter of Tarun Gogoi or whoever? It is not only able to understand your age, your sex, it is trying to anticipate your preferences, your choices. This is what the media is doing across the world. And surely, definitely there's an impact in India. The same impact is also happening in India. In certain respects, India is different. And I will come to that in a short while from now. Now, these giant corporations, today, it's not just confined to Alphabet and Meta. It's also what you buy. Today, it's easier to buy a book on Amazon because your bookshop is closing down. It's easier for you to buy whatever you want to buy, including your vegetables, your fruits, from your online. That is the way even retail business and commerce has changed. So the small shopkeeper, what we call the mom and pop store, is being dependent on these big players. What happens to the person who is pushing a cart. Think about that person. So, in a sense, these giant media corporations across the globe, instead of democratizing the world, is actually helping the authoritarian people, the majoritarian people, the dictators of the world become more powerful because they're controlling the technology. Instead of making the world a more equal place, a more egalitarian world, we are seeing that they are actually widening the gap between those who have and those who haven't, between the underprivileged and the privileged, between the rich and the poor, which is also what has happened in India. And I would say the social media and the media has played a very, very, very important role in this regard to make our society what it is. Let me, having talked about what is happening in the world, across the world, let me talk more about what is happening in this country, in India. But before that, let me tell you one other point. In several countries in the world, there are attempts by government authorities and regulators to control these giant corporations. In America, it is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. In the UK, the United Kingdom, it's Office of Communication, Ofcom. There are similar moves in Germany, in France, notably in New Zealand, in Australia. And they're saying you have too much power. And too much power is bad for society. Monopolies are bad for society. The head of the government of New Zealand, she was very, very alarmed when one of the social media platforms was misused. There was a crazy person who shot people outside a mosque, outside in New Zealand, and broadcast it live. So they said, no, this can't happen. Facebook, you do take action. You cannot allow murders to be broadcast live. We've seen. It is not just violent scenes. I mean, today, pornography is freely available on the internet. Pornography which commodifies the bodies of human beings, especially women, is available literally at a click, a few clicks. It is no longer something secretive, something furtive, something that is done in secrecy, covertly. No, it is available to all. And it should not surprise you that pornography is one of the biggest businesses on the internet. And I'm telling you something which is the least guarded secret. And that is the youth of today. Young men and women have access to pornography on a scale never before. What it does to human relations, what it does to social relations is another story altogether. I'm not a sociologist to tell you, but I can certainly tell you that much of it is being very, very bad. It's very, very negative. Unlike countries like, see, in Europe, there is a move to say, I have the right to be forgotten. I may have said something silly and stupid 20 years ago. Today I regret it. Why should it still be available on the internet? I said something silly. I was in a relationship with a person and that relationship didn't work out. I said some nasty things. Today I've changed my mind. Time has healed me. I'm a different person. I want to forget what has happened. Do I have the right to be forgotten? No, I don't have the right to forget. The internet does not give me the right to forget my own mistakes. It is unforgiving and not just unable to forget. So these are some trends that are happening across the world. I'll give you another example. Not very far from here, in Myanmar, the Rohingya, the refugees in Myanmar, they were demonized on Facebook, on the social media. They were made out to be the perpetrators of crimes, whereas they were themselves the victims. And it was the social media. It was after independent inquiries, including inquiries done by the United Nations bodies, that inquired into what was happening and held Facebook to account. I said, look, you claim to have these community standards. What are these community standards? You are responsible for deaths. There are at least two people, Sophie Zhang and Francis Hogan, who used to work in Facebook, in Meta, who left that organization and blew the whistle. And they said that, look, Francis Hogan said, you have blood on your hands. Because you looked the other way when hateful speech, incendiary information was put out in the public domain. You did nothing. Why? Because it doesn't violate your so-called community standards. Who enforces these? Who enforces these so-called standards? It's a question. Answer: machines, artificial intelligence. They don't recognize different languages. Once upon a time, the English language used to dominate all the content that would go on the internet. But today you have content on the internet in so many different languages. But those machines half the time can't read. I'll give you a trivial example. Suppose somebody abuses me on the internet and says, you MC, you BC. Every Indian will know what is MC, what is BC. But that not so intelligent machine might say, oh, MC is the master of ceremonies. BC is before Christ. Those machines can't recognize many things. And you need human intervention to find out what is there and what is not there. And today, and I talk here about India, this same social media has been used to spread hatred, to spread division among communities, between Muslims and Hindus, between Meithis and Kukis. And they continue to do so. You can be anonymous on the internet. You are Mr. ABCD, you are Miss XYZ, you don't know who you are. And Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp don't give a damn. They want your content to go viral. What is viral? To go to see many people. They are in this business for money. They are in this business for making profits, for maximizing their gains. They're not interested in what is good for society, what is good for spreading harmony and peace among communities. And this becomes even more important, especially in a country such as ours. Before I talk a little bit about how the social media has impacted political discourse in India and the world, let me look at what is unique about India and India's media. Because once upon a time, the media used to reflect a lot of what the diversity, the heterogeneity, the vividita of this country. There is no country in the world like India, ladies and gentlemen. We are the only country on the planet where behind our currency note, okay, have you counted the number of languages? Have you counted the number of languages? There are 17 languages, including English and Hindi, that are on our currency note. There are 21 languages in the 8th schedule of the Constitution of India, excluding English. Some of the languages are not there because the scripts followed are the same. There is no country in the world with so many languages, with so many cultures. Yes, maybe geographical diversity is there in many countries, in China, in Russia, in the United States, in Canada, in Brazil. Maybe. I don't know enough. But in terms of cultural diversity, in terms of linguistic diversity, India is unique on the planet. And what the media has done today, it has, by being misused by those in positions of power, the ruling dispensation, and I will name, it's the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is a political wing of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh that believes in a Hindu Rashtra, has done more to spread Islamophobia in India than ever before. I sometimes seriously believe whether Islamophobia is today where it used to be in the 1940s, when my parents, who are no more, they left what was then East Bengal, what is today Bangladesh, to come to the western part of Bengal. I seriously wonder. I seriously wonder. A few years back, about 8 years ago, one young man, he's my wife's nephew, he came to me one day and he said, he calls me Mosaji. Mosaji, Mosaji. I believe not all Muslims are terrorists. Har Musalman Atangwadi nahi hai. But all terrorists are Muslim. I said, really? Who told you this? WhatsApp. WhatsApp. To use Ravish Kumar's memorable phrase, there's an entire generation of Indians who are being educated in WhatsApp University, WhatsApp Vishwavidyalaya, where they don't have professors who are sitting here who teach them. They think everything they see on that screen is truth. It's not. Who will teach these people? When you tell them that India is the only country in the world after Indonesia and Pakistan in terms of the number of Muslims, who will tell them that in the state of Assam that about 33% are supposed to be Muslim as per the 2011 census? We haven't had a census after that. I come from Bengal where it's about 27%. Once upon a time it used to be Jammu and Kashmir, but Jammu and Kashmir is no longer a state. It's 2 union territories. So, if, and this is the impact on politics, the rise of the right wing, the rise of Hindu chauvinism, the rise of so-called Hindu nationalism, this has been spread today across the country by the media in general and the social media in particular. I say without any fear of any contradiction that in the last few years, in the last decade and longer, every single case of mob lynching, where mobs have come together to kill people who belong to a particular community, every such incident has been preceded by WhatsApp messages. and followed by WhatsApp messages. In Jharkhand, the family of a person who was accused of smuggling cows was getting a live commentary of how her husband was being lynched to death on WhatsApp. In Rajasthan's Rajsamand district, a laborer was burned to death by a fanatic who is at present in jail, while his relative shot a video of this man being killed. This is worse than pornography. And when the police persons went and asked WhatsApp, tell us who was the first originator of the content, who was the person who shot this video, WhatsApp said, no, we can't tell you because we don't know. Our design architecture, our information technology design architecture does not give us we don't know who has put it out. We ourselves don't know. This is something that unites the right and the left in India and across the world. All of them believe, and this is in a sense cutting across ideologies, they believe that WhatsApp should do something about it. You can't claim that my technology allows, it's so private and it allows end-to-end encryption that we don't know who has sent what. Why do I say this? Because today technology has moved to spaces which were unbelievable in the world. And this is where politics comes in again. Have you heard of Pegasus? It is not this horse with wings in Greek mythology. No, sir. It is the most dangerous software, spyware known ever in this world. मैं खुद भुक्तभोगी हूँ. My phone was infected with Pegasus. I moved the Supreme Court. It's another story. Today is perhaps not the right occasion to tell you about what happened, but the fact is, it's been developed by a private firm in Israel called the NSO Group. It can infect your mobile phone without you knowing about it, without you being even aware of it. Earlier there used to be what was called clickbait. You would get a message on SMS, short messaging service, or you would get something on WhatsApp and you click on it, and without knowing it, some malware has entered your phone that has enabled somebody else to track, read your messages, see all the pictures you put, listen to all the conversations you're having. Today this can be done without you even knowing it. Zero-click software, spyware, surveillance by Big Brother. Orwell wrote about Big Brother is watching you in 1984. 1984 is gone. We are 40 years, close to 40 years from 1984. Orwell wrote this book after the Second World War. Huxley, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. This is real, sir. It's reality. Let me just elaborate on this point a little bit more. Pegasus, those who sell the software in Israel, they say, no, this is for law enforcement. We can track the terrorists. We can track those with bombs. We can track the pedophiles, the child rapists. We can track the drug dealers. We can track the drones that cross from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction. This is the greatness we are doing. This is our service to mankind. They said, we have such software. Suppose a building has collapsed and in that rubble people are trapped and some of them have phones. We can track their phone. We can help. But every sale is supposed to be supervised by the government and sold only to a government law enforcement agency. But in actual practice, it has been misused across the world. from Mexico to Azerbaijan, to Morocco, to France, to Pakistan, to Saudi Arabia, to Turkey, to India. And it continues to be misused. Thank you, sir. There was a group that got a leak and they did an investigation and they found how this software was being misused to target the political opponents of those who are in power. Human rights activists, judges, lawyers, journalists. So the surveillance state is real, but the most amazing thing that happened in India was when the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Ramana, asked the Solicitor General of India one straight question. He said, "Tell me, Mr. Tushar Mehta, Honorable Solicitor General of India, whether any agency of the government of India has purchased the Pegasus software or not. Please tell me yes or no." And the Honorable Solicitor General of India, Shri Tushar Mehta, tells the Chief Justice of India, Shri Ramana, "Sorry, sir, I will not answer your question. I cannot answer your question." Is it cannot or will not? I don't remember. We will alert those who are working against national interest. What is this national interest? Who is a Deshdrohi? Who is a Rashtratrohi? The law of sedition enacted by the British over a century ago has been used more in the last 9 years than ever before. The government's own data says so, not I. Let's take a few steps backwards and look at what the media was and where the media is today in India. India, even today, is the only country in the world which has somewhere in the region of 1 lakh, about 100,000 publications that are registered with the Registrar of Newspapers of India, the RNI. There was a reason for that registration. Those days we were short of paper. Paper had to be imported. Paper was rationed. And also they would give them titles. You know, who owns this title? Times of India. Company A. You want to register another title, you have to say, okay, I want to own the Crimes of India, whatever. That was the role of the RNI, the Registrar of Newspapers of India. Even today, if you go and check the website of the Registrar of Newspapers, though several newspapers are dying, several newspapers across the world and also in India are gradually shutting down. Only the elderly and the elite are reading news on paper. Even today, roughly 100,000 newspapers are there in India. Let's move ahead. Journals are also called newspapers. So some of the newspapers could be a small circulation within, even your local area could have a newspaper and it be registered. You get some concession from the postal department and you get a mass circulated papers. Among the two most widely circulated newspapers on the planet, on planet Earth, are two Hindi newspapers, one called the Dainik Jagran and the other is called the Dainik Bhaskar. They use satellite technology, they have multiple editions, but because they are in Hindi, they are mainly available only in northern India, the Hindi-speaking part of India. Among English newspapers, the Times of India used to say we are not just India's, but Asia's most widely circulated English daily newspaper. And the Economic Times used to say we are the world's most widely circulated financial newspaper. But, as I said earlier, and I repeat myself, we are reaching a stage where more and more people are reading less and less on paper and more on screens. This is the reality of the world we are living in. the number of people who write letters, the number of people who send postcards has come down. The number of people who write with a pen on paper is coming down. People prefer to type. It's faster. My children are like that. Why don't you send it to me on WhatsApp? I said, why don't you write down? He said, no, send it to me on WhatsApp. It's typical of the entire generation of people. And India's a young country. Let's accept that. And the younger, it's not that elderly citizens are not using the social media. Professor Hiren Guwahati, I know, is a regular on the internet. I'm sure several others are here. But the young people use it more. And then let's accept that fact. It's a fact. I mean, India and China are the two most populous countries in the world. Between India and China, with 1.4 billion, 140 crore in each country, roughly, we have, between the two of us, about 40% of the total population of the planet. The difference is the demographic profile. In China, that is, the median age is about 37 or 38. That means half the population is below or above the age of 37 or 38. In India, that number is 27 or 28. That's how young India is. Why am I saying this? Because the social media is used a lot by young people. And today, the largest population of young people on this planet is here in India. Now, let's move from newspapers to the other medium of mass consumption, which was used to be called the radio. All India Radio is even today a unique organization in the world. It is the only radio broadcaster in the world that broadcasts in so many languages, in so many dialects. Go to the All India radio station in Kohima, they'll tell you how many languages and how many dialects they're using. It's unique, of course it's unique. But you must also remember that despite the existence of over 1,000 community radio stations and privately owned FM radio stations, FM frequency modulation radio station, India is perhaps one of the few countries in the world, and certainly one of the few large countries in the world, and one which claims itself the world's largest democracy, where news and current affairs on radio is still a monopoly of the government. That means you cannot have a news bulletin on the radio unless you are taking it from All India Radio, Akashvani. You cannot have your own radio station to cater, if you are a community radio station and you have an area of, say, a radius of 50 kilometers all around you, you can't have it. You're banned by law. So that also makes India unique. Unique for the wrong reasons, of course. Television. Let's talk a little bit about television in India. India is also among the few countries in the world where the spread of television preceded the spread of telephony. Television expanded before telephony did. Television, until 1991, ladies and gentlemen, there was one television broadcaster in India. And that was Prasar Bharati Doordarshan. One. Of course, it had several languages. It was always a mouthpiece of the government. It was always the propaganda tool of the government. But there were periods when Doordarshan would liberalize a little bit. It would show programs which were not always government propaganda. But remember what happened in the 90s. India became the only country in the world which today has something like 900 television channels. Television channels that have got official permission and authorization from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to uplink and uplink and downlink. And out of these 900 television channels, something like 400 or 450 of them claim they are news channels or news and current affairs channels. But what you see there, is it news? Nag Nagin ka shadi Two snakes are getting married. Cow on the moon gives milk. Falsehoods, superstition. It's all there. What is news? It is entertainment. News or factual information is dressed up and covered up into sensationalized, commercialized content. This is what television does. But let's see what happened after that. Telephony. When I was a young man, a telephone was a luxury, wasn't it? At one point of time in the 50s when telephone began, out of, I think, 160 people, there was one telephone. Those were the days of the shortage economy. Father telling prospective son-in-law, "You want to marry my daughter? All right, I'll give you permission. Please apply right now for a telephone and a gas connection. By the time your children grow up, you might get one." Where are we today? Ladies and gentlemen, the figures are astounding, astonishing. We have 140 crore Indians. You know how many SIMs there are in India? SIM, that little chip inside your phone, the subscriber identity module. Go to the website of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI, and you will notice that at different points of time, there were 115 to 120 crore SIMs in India. What does that mean? That in most parts of India, there were more SIMs than human beings. Of course, many people have two SIMs. Some people have two mobile phones. Many SIMs are inactive because people are not using them. Of course, I accept all that. I accept all that. But it's not a phenomenon confined to the urban areas, to Guwahati, or Nagaon, or Dibrugarh, or Jorhat. Even in the smallest villages, the more remote villages, television is there. And so is a mobile phone. And more people are watching television on mobile phones, thanks to Reliance Jio. वो जियो, बाकी लोग को जीने मत दो, जियो, अच्छा जियो. Can you imagine? It started in 2016. And today it's number one. We are in the stage where you have a virtual duopoly, where it's Airtel or Airtel or Jio. And Vodafone is having a difficult time competing with them. Idea of Vodafone, headed by the Birla Group, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla's company, 33% is owned by the government of India. Once upon a time, he seriously suggested, after a court judgment on adjusted gross revenues, that the government should allow a merger of Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL and MTNL with Jio. That never happened. But in order to ensure that there's not a duopoly, but three companies, the government is 33% owner of that company. Incidentally, the same Mr. Birla, whose grandfather always opposed nationalization. They said insurance should not be nationalized. Coal mining shouldn't be nationalized. Steel mining shouldn't be nationalized. Petroleum refining should be nationalized. See how the twists of fate, the ironical turns that history takes. But when you look at it, this is the new social media revolution on this planet. And this is how it has impacted India. See, China has shut off the foreign media. China, and I'm sort of going back to where we began. China says, Google, you can't come here. Facebook, you're not allowed here. But India has allowed them. India allows them. Therefore, India is the biggest market, user base, consumer base of WhatsApp. As I was telling you, at least 50 crore Indians, perhaps 60 crore Indians are using WhatsApp. For WhatsApp, this is the biggest user base. Facebook, Instagram, Google, all of them. Now, when you look back in time, I've written a book on the subject. It was published about 4.5 years ago. If any of you are interested, it's available in 4 languages. It's called The Real Face of Facebook in India. And the subtitle is about how social media have become weaponized, have become weapons, and how they have been weaponized and become propaganda tools of those in power. The Bharatiya Janata Party was way ahead of everybody else in using and misusing the media to spread political propaganda. Today they have become a little smarter. Other parties have become smarter, including the Indian National Congress. They are also trying to play the same game. And today, more than the mainstream media, we find that more and more journalists are using the social media and YouTube, but they have severe limitations. Karma Paljor is here, I believe, somewhere. He's the founder and runs East Mojo, which is a very good, I strongly recommend, website and a YouTube channel devoted to the northeastern part of India. He'll tell you, he was sharing his experiences with me. What he earns and what YouTube earns is something he'll never know. When NDTV, formerly New Delhi Television, changed hands, its biggest controller used to be the Ambani, Mr. Mukesh Ambani's group, and then his associate Mahendra Nahata. Last year, he sold his Mr. Ambani and his associates sold their stake to the Adani group, and it's now part of the Adani group. Soon thereafter, after Pranoy Roy and Radhika Roy said this was a hostile takeover, Ravish Kumar moved away and set up his YouTube channel. This is the problem. The algorithms, the machine, the artificial intelligence behind these media organizations. How much Ravish Kumar earns and how much YouTube earns, how much Karma Paljor's East Mojo earns and how much YouTube earns, they'll never tell you. The algorithms will not tell you because they are a monopoly. That is their business model. That is the source, and that is the reason why they are making that much of profit. Suppose YouTube earns 100 and his channel is very popular and Ravish Kumar has millions of subscribers and millions of viewers. Will Ravish Kumar get 50 out of 100 or 10 out of 100? Something he will never know. Because this is the way the monopolist works and continues to work. I told you earlier, Ravish Kumar had coined that expression, WhatsApp University. He also coined another phrase, and that was called Godi Media. Godi, lap. And I've been speaking for almost 1 hour. I need to have some more water. Don't get upset. I'll sit down and I'll get it. Please sit down. Please sit. No, you sit down, sir. I'll come to you. How did such a large section of the media in India become part of the Godi media? What is the Godi media? Godi media is a lap. Why did they become so subservient to those in power? There's several reasons. One is the entire business model on which media organizations run. Even today, newspaper owners like to bring out newspapers. Why? Because 90%, or often more than 90% of their total income comes from advertisers and sponsors. This is also used to be true, or is even today true, of many television channels. Not so much of internet websites, because the money they get is far less compared to the proportion that a newspaper gets, or even a radio channel gets, or even a television channel gets. Several factors behind it. So this is advertising driven. So the corporates and the large corporate bodies that advertise, the Hindustan Levers of the world, and those who make Colgate, and the insurance companies and the Geos of the world, they're major advertisers. Several things happened, and this was a process that began some time ago. It began, I would say, about 2 decades ago. And then there were certain tipping points, certain points of inflection. One was the 2008 worldwide recession. जो एक विश्वव्यापी एक आर्थिक संकट का समय से हम गुजर गया, where people wondered, is this capitalism, is this a crisis of capitalism, or is it a crisis within capitalism? Is it a crisis of capitalism? If you will remember, Wall Street collapsed. Lehman Brothers, that had built the railroads and the railway tracks in the US, it collapsed. General Motors, that epitomized free enterprise capitalism in the United States, it collapsed. At one stage, more than half of the shares of General Motors was held by the government of the US, the taxpayers of the US. So the question was, is it a private company, is it a public company? But that's an issue, a different issue. So during that time, there was a big impact on the media, because the advertising flows from the private sector started shrinking, because it was considered less important as part of the marketing services that are required to sell products and services. This had a definite impact on the economics of the media across the world, and also in India. Something that was noteworthy in India was that the media in India became more and more dependent on advertising by the government. Who is the biggest advertiser? Bharat Sarkar, Government of India. Here it is the Government of Assam. So when media organizations, newspapers, magazines, television channels, and even websites become completely or become largely dependent on government advertisers for their income, they are not critical of the government. There's an old saying in English, he who pays the piper calls the tune. जो बांसुरी बजाते हैं आप उनको पैसे दे रहे हैं. So he will play whatever you want. 1, 2, 3, 12, 13, he will play it. But he can play for you Rag, Yaman Kalyan. But you're paying him, so he has to pay what he has to. So the newspapers and the magazines and the websites, they started towing the line of the government. That is how you find a very unusual inversion of roles and responsibilities. The media, which is supposed to take a critical view of the government in power, started criticizing the opposition more. So in Guwahati, you will not talk about the business interests of the Chief Minister's wife or alleged business interests of the Chief Minister's wife, but instead you will be talking about what is going wrong with the Congress party. So instead of playing the role of the opposition, the media started playing a supporter of the ruling establishment. And one of my dear friends, used to be a dear friend of mine from Assam, he leads the pack. the one and only Arnab Goswami. On his face, I will tell you so I can say in front of you. Once upon a time, he was a journalist. Today, he has become a monstrous caricature of what journalism should be, or what a journalist should be. And I'm saying it in public. I'm being recorded. If he puts it up on YouTube, it will be immortalized. Let Mr. Arnab Goswami know. I have been invited to his program several times in the past. Most recently, one of his reporters tried to, without my permission, record a telephone conversation of me. So, I have no hesitation in saying that the great son of Assam has become a monstrous caricature of a journalist. He may be making big bucks, but I ask, is he doing his duty to uphold truth? Is he working to strengthen democracy? Is he working for the poor, the underprivileged? I'm not at all sure. And unfortunately, the culture of subservience, the culture of obedience has come from the top. Who is the only Prime Minister of India who has never given a spontaneous, unscripted press conference in his tenure? There's only one Prime Minister, and his name is the Honorable Shri Narendra Modi. He has picked and chosen the people he will give you interviews. He says, okay, Mr. Rajat Sharma, you can give, I'll grant you an interview. Anjana Om Kashyap, Arnab Goswami, Navika Kumar, yes, Sudhir Chaudhary. It doesn't matter, you had to go to Tihar jail for a little while, that's okay. Akshay Kumar, is he a journalist? Akshay Kumar is an actor. Until recently he was a citizen of Canada. Now I understand he's a citizen of India. He's one of India's highest income taxpayers because he's a very, very popular film star. And when he got the opportunity to interview our Mananiya Pradhan Mantri, he said, Mananiya Pradhan Mantri, मेरा ड्राइवर ने एक सवाल उठाया, आप आम कैसे खाते हैं? आप काट के खाते हैं या चूस के खाते हैं आम? Very important question. He is the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have spent more than 1 hour talking to you. You know, we were told the media, journalists are supposed to be the watchdogs of society. The thief who has entered your house at 3 o'clock in the morning does not know that the dog who is barking is a very old dog. He has never bitten anybody in his life. He can only bark. कुत्ता को सिर्फ भौंकना आता है, काटना नहीं आता है. But the thief has got a little scared, so he runs away. So the watchdog has done his job better than the burglar alarm. But today, the watchdogs have become lapdogs, Godi media, the lap. Dogs are also, intelligent. A visually challenged person can be helped by a dog cross the road. Dogs can sniff out drugs and toxic substances and narcotics from a pile of luggage. There's a story about the Saint Bernard dogs in Switzerland. When people are caught in a snow blizzard, they went and rescued them. But these lap dogs, who masquerade as journalists, my own brothers and sisters in the profession, they are particularly happy when the lap is that of a very important political leader, or a big corporate captain, or a military bigwig, or even a mafia don. Forget barking, forget biting. The dog wags its tail. It's very comfortable in your lap. So, ladies and gentlemen, What should the media be? Should it be a lapdog? Should it be a guide dog? Should it be a watchdog? I think the answer to that question to me is obvious. I hope it is obvious to you. I thank all of you for listening so patiently to me for more than 1 hour, for 1 hour and I would say about 5 to 10 minutes. I once again thank the organizers of this conference. I want to thank the Brajamohan Sarma Memorial Trust for giving me this honor and this privilege of speaking with you. Namaskar.
Anyone likes to make any question? Any question? If you want, Dr. Guy, by sitting.
It was a very riveting speech. And it gave a quite horrifying picture, not only of the state of the media in the country, but the state of democracy. This is what is happening to our democracy. And he has raised an alarm that we as citizens should be aware of, and should also be trying to find out how to get around it, how to counter it. This is the most important matter. Political parties in the opposition, they are not particularly concerned with these things. They should be.